My student, Elsa Zhang, taught me a beautiful phrase in Mandarin. 命运相能是总不知彼岸，一旦开门牛。When fate knocks, open the door. The unknown is waiting on the other side. It's a beautiful idea. Thank you, Elsa, for teaching it to me, but I gotta be honest with you. With 2 kids and a mortgage, destiny is very inconvenient. So, when fate came knocking in the form of a recruiter from Basis, my husband and I looked at each other and did what any sane couple would do in those circumstances. We flipped a coin, true story, and let destiny decide. Luckily, the unknown has always called to us. As a scholar of the Islamic Golden Age, I'd spent 5 of the last 10 years living all over the Middle East, finishing my PhD at Columbia. And my husband loved China when he visited here on semester at sea. But I'd never been here, and I'd never considered calling China my home. Still, we have a rule. You have to honor the coin flip. So, after long nights of hushed conversation and watching way too many vlogs about daily life in Guangzhou, my husband and I uprooted our children, packed our lives into 12 huge duffel bags. Seriously, they're bigger than I am. And we put our bodies and our souls on the road to a brand new adventure in Guangzhou. But moving here was not just a career change. It was a profound journey into the unknown for my family. And yet, as an Abbasidist, a historian who studies the Golden Age of Islam, moving here was also deeply personal. I was coming to the city where the Islamic world in China forged a profound connection 1,000 years ago. Whew, still, before I could think about history, I had to survive the present. Our flight left Los Angeles at midnight, and we didn't get here until 5 a.m. the next day. We were so tired, Nathan, my son, that the circles under our eyes had triangles, which is one of Nathan's favorite phrases. My kids could barely walk the distance from the airplane to baggage claim, and luckily, because China is so child-friendly, they didn't have to. Right when you get into baggage claim, you see these brightly colored luggage carts disguised as toy cars. My boys sat in them right away, giving us rest and fun after a difficult journey. Oof, and let me tell you guys about our first visit to a Walmart in China. Wait, in America, Walmart is where you go for groceries, not adventure, right? But Walmart in China is an experience. We saw Peking duck hanging in the window. We saw traditional Chinese medicine beautifully displayed. We saw a ping pong competition inside a Walmart. And Guangzhou, we fell in love with the city right away. There's so much to do here. Zoos, museums, aquariums, dinosaurs. There are mermaids inside a mall. Leave it to my husband's childlike sense of wonder to uncover the extraordinary within our first month here. But still, there were those moments. I call them 3 a.m. panics, when the weight of what we had done would hit me. We'd moved our children to a country whose language we didn't speak. We were surrounded by the unknown. I was afraid we'd made a terrible mistake. And that is when I found my anchor. I found it in my discipline. I found it in history. I reminded myself that Guangzhou is not just a modern megacity. To the Arab and Persian merchants of the Abbasid Empire, Guangzhou was the legendary global gateway to the east, known as Hanfu. Now, the maritime Silk Road between the Abbasid heartland in Baghdad and Guangzhou was the longest sea route in regular human use until 1492. It was an an almost 10,000 kilometer direct link between East and West. And here's the most amazing part. These voyages weren't made in steel ships with iron nails. They were made in wooden dhows, or kunlunvoa, stitched together with coconut thread. These stone ships were fair weather craft that observers described as very frail. And yet they successfully bridged two ends of a continent for centuries. Wood planks and coconut thread. These seem too fragile to bear a 10,000 kilometer journey, so dangerous that the Persian sea captain Bozorg ibn Shahryar wrote, "For a man to reach China without dying was a miracle." To modern ears, a ship made of steel sounds stronger, right? But in those waters, rigidity could mean danger. The Indian Ocean was full of shallows, reefs, monsoon winds, and shifting conditions. Ships of steel would have been dangerously inflexible. But wooden ships, sewn together with frail coconut thread, were resilient and flexible, able to adapt to conditions without being destroyed. I realized that these ships were a metaphor for the kind of person that could make the journey from Baghdad to Hanfu or Florida to Guangzhou. It's a kind of adaptability that on the surface may not seem like the strength of steel, but instead is the strength of the coconut tree. It bends in the winds of the strongest hurricane, but does not break. Now, these ships were more than just tools for survival. Together with the Overland Silk Road, they formed a vast network through which objects, ideas, technologies, and stories traveled between China and the Islamic world. Take the Battle of Talas, for example. According to a legendary account by the scholar Al-Tha'labi, it was the ultimate technology transfer, where Chinese prisoners of war taught the secrets of papermaking to Baghdad. Although this story is a myth, it does reveal the incredible admiration that the Muslims had for Chinese technical ingenuity. Or take navigation itself. Sailors combined the Chinese mariner's compass with Arab stellar measurements centuries before Baidu maps, and with fewer notifications. And the scale of this trade was staggering. In the 9th century, an Arab ship sank off the coast of Indonesia. This is that ship. This is an actual video of that ship, the Balitung shipwreck. Discovered in 1998 and now housed in a museum in Singapore, it contained over 60,000 artifacts, including mass-produced ceramics, specially branded for export to the Islamic world. The Abbasids wanted Chinese silk and porcelain, while nobles in the Tang court were obsessed with Arab frankincense, spices, jasmine oil, and for some reason, rhinoceros horn. I don't get it. But goods and technologies were not the only things traveling along these routes. Admiration traveled too. For example, a 10th century geographer named Stricof wrote that the Chinese were the most skillful of God's entire creation in designing, crafting, and every type of work. They are not surpassed in this by any other nation. Pretty cool. Fast forward to the 14th century, and the famed Moroccan traveler Ibn Battuta writes about Guangzhou in almost exactly the same words. In fact, he likely plagiarized Stricof. Problem in the 14th century, problem today. But that's extraordinary in its own way. 500 years after the end of the Islamic Golden Age, stories and admiration were still traveling between China and the Islamic world. Now, when I teach the Silk Road, my students often picture it like this, like a straight line on a map. But standing in Guangzhou, thinking about Baghdad, I began to realize it wasn't a straight line at all. It was a series of hinges. Mifsal in Arabic, shunyo in Mandarin. Cities where land met water, river met ocean, empire met exchange, and the known world opened into the unknown. Baghdad was one such hinge. Guangzhou was another. Neither was simply an ocean port city. Both were river cities, hinges between worlds. Baghdad sits on the Tigris, gathering the wealth, knowledge, and movement of the Abbasid world before opening south to the Persian Gulf and Indian Ocean. Guangzhou sits within the Pearl River system, where the vast interior of China opens to the South China Sea. One in the Near East, one in the Far East. And for over 1,000 years, ships, merchants, translators, scholars, ceramics, silks, stories, and dreams moved between them. And somehow, in the summer of 2025, my family found themselves as part of that hinge. Not as merchants with cargo, not as pilgrims, not as ambassadors, but as 4 jet-lagged people with 12 huge duffel bags and absolutely no idea what waited on the far shore. But we didn't just move to Guangzhou. We stepped into the other side of a mirror I'd spent my scholarly life studying from the side of Baghdad. Now the Arabs, like the Chinese, are people who love their proverbs. And since I opened this talk with an idiom in Mandarin, it's only fair that I mirror it with one in Arabic. اطلبوا العلم ولو في الصين. Travel to seek knowledge, even as far as China. It expresses an extraordinary idea. Knowledge is worth crossing the entire world to seek. And I guess my family took that literally. Fate knocked on our door, we opened it, and it brought us all the way here. After all, Guangzhou has been the world's meeting place for 1,300 years. My family just figured that out.